Hello students, I hope you are all doing well. Today in English, we will begin with the second semester portion, Unit 3, Lesson 3.4, How the First Letter Was Written by Rudyard Kipling. About the author. Joseph Rudyard Kipling was an English journalist, short story writer, poet, and novelist. He was born in India, which inspired much of his work. Kipling's works of fiction include The Jungle Book, Kim, and many short stories, including The Man Who Would Be King. The summary of this lesson. Tegumai Boksulai, a Neolithic man, lived in a cave with his wife, Teshumai Tevindro, and their daughter Taffy. One day, he and Taffy went to the Wagai River to catch fish. He accidentally broke his fishing spear. He started to mend it, having left his other spear at home. A stranger came along who did not speak their language. Taffy asked him to take a message to her mother and bring Tegumai's other spear. The stranger gave her her piece of birch bark to show his good intent. She thought he meant her to draw her message on it, since she could not write. With a shark's tooth from his necklace, she drew her father, a broken spear, herself, and the man, also a swamp full of beavers, on the way to their cave. The stranger believed his shark's tooth was magic, and that her father, who was concentrating on his task, was a great chief in danger from his enemies, the beavers. The stranger found the cave where Teshumai had invited some Neolithic ladies to lunch. On seeing Taffy's picture, she thought it meant that the stranger had attacked Tegumai, terrified Taffy, and had drawn their picture in triumph. So she and her friends knocked him down, sat on him, and beat drums to summon the whole tribe. The stranger led them all to the river, where Taffy had to explain what her picture really meant, and an angry scene ended in laughter. The stranger was then adopted into the tribe. Reading and explanation. Once upon a most early time was a Neolithic man. A Neolithic man is a man of the last phase of the Stone Age or the New Stone Age. And he lived cavely in a cave, meaning the manner of living in a cave. And he wore very few clothes, and he couldn't read, and he couldn't write, and he didn't want to, and except when he was hungry, he was quite happy. His name was Tegumai Bobsulai, and that means man who does not put his foot forward in a hurry. But we, O best beloved, will call him Tegumai for short. And his wife's name was Teshumai Tevindro, and that means lady who asks a very many questions. But we, O best beloved, will call her Teshumai for short. And his little girl daughter's name was Taffimai Metalumai, and that means small person without any manners who ought to be spanked. But I am going to call her Taffy, and she was Tegumai Bobsulai's best beloved and her own mummy's best beloved, and she was not spanked half as much as was good for her. Spanked means slapping or hitting a child, and they were all three very happy. Now attend and listen. One day, Tegumai Bobsulai went down through the behavior swamp to the Wagai River to spear carpfish for dinner, and Taffy went too. A beaver is an animal with smooth fur, sharp teeth, and a large flat tail. Swamp means a marshy land. Spear is used to strike, and carp fish is a freshwater fish. Tegumai's spear was made of wood with shark's teeth at the end, and before he had caught any fish at all, he accidentally broke it clean across by jabbing it down too hard on the bottom of the river. Jabbing means poking roughly and quickly. They were miles and miles from home. Of course, they had their lunch with them in a little bag. And Tegumai had forgotten to bring any extra spears. "Here's a pretty kettle of fish," said Tegumai. "It will take me half the day to mend this." A pretty kettle of fish means a messy situation. "There's your big black spear at home," said Taffy. "Let me run back to the cave and ask Mummy to give it to me." "It's too far for your little fat legs," said Tegumai. "Besides, you might fall into the Behavior Swamp and be drowned. We must make the best of a bad job," meaning do something as well as one can under difficult circumstances. He sat down and took out a little leather mendie bag full of reindeer sinews and strips of leather and lumps of beeswax and resin and began to mend the spear. Mendie bag is a bag containing reindeer sinews, which are tough cords or tendons in the body, and leather strips used to mend the spear. Resin is a sticky substance from trees. Taffy sat down too with her toes in the water and her chin in her hand and thought very hard. Then she said, "I say, Daddy, it's an awful nuisance that you and I don't know how to write, isn't it? If we did, we could send a message for the new spear." Awful meaning unpleasant. Just then a stranger man came along the river, but he belonged to a far tribe, the Tevaras, and he did not understand one word of Tegumai's language. He stood on the bank and smiled at Taffy because he had a little girl daughter of his own at home. Tegumai drew a hank of deer sinews from his mendie bag and began to mend his spear. Hank is loosely tied bundle of strings. "Come here," said Taffy. "Do you know where my mummy lives?" And the stranger man said, being, as you know, a Tevara. "Silly," said Taffy, and she stamped her foot because she saw a shoal of very big carp going up the river just when her daddy couldn't use his spear. Shoal is a large number of fish. "Don't bother grown-ups," said Tegumai. Grown-ups means adults. So busy with his spear mending that he did not turn round. "I aren't," said Taffy. "I only want him to do what I want him to do, and he won't understand." "Then don't bother me," said Tegumai, and he went on pulling and straining, which means stretching, at the deer sinews with his mouth full of loose ends, which have to be tied. The stranger man, a genuine Tevara he was, sat down on the grass, and Taffy showed him what her daddy was doing. The stranger man thought, "This is a very wonderful child. She stamps her foot at me and she makes faces. She must be the daughter of that noble chief, who is so great that he won't take any notice of me." So he smiled more politely than ever. "Now," said Taffy, "I want you to go to my mummy because your legs are longer than mine and you won't fall into the beaver swamp, and ask for daddy's other spear, the one with the black handle that hangs over our fireplace." The stranger man, and he was a Tevara, thought, "This is a very, very wonderful child. She waves her arms and she shouts at me, but I don't understand a word of what she says. But if I don't do what she wants, I greatly fear that that haughty chief, man who turns his back on callers, will be angry." Haughty means proud or arrogantly superior. He got up and twisted a big flat piece of bark off a birch tree and gave it to Taffy. He did this, best beloved, to show that his heart was as white as the birch bark and that he meant no harm. but Taffy didn't quite understand. "Oh," said she, "now I see. You want my mummy's living address. Of course, I can't write, but I can draw pictures if I have anything sharp to scratch with. Please lend me the shark's tooth of your necklace." The stranger man, and he was a Tevara, didn't say anything. So Taffy put up her little hand and pulled at the beautiful bead and seed and shark tooth necklace round his neck. The stranger man, and he was a Tevara, thought, "This is a very, very, very wonderful child. The shark's tooth on my necklace is a magic shark's tooth, and I was always told that if anybody touched it without my leave, that is, without my permission, they would immediately swell up or burst. But this child doesn't swell up or burst, and that important chief, man who attends strictly to his business, who has not yet taken any notice of me at all, doesn't seem to be afraid that she will swell up or burst. I'd better be more polite."